to take a big bet? And he said, yes.
Really?
So Justin was saying off camera that Samuel, who just passed away, was. Do you want to say it? No, so I don't paraphrase and get any of that wrong.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
So if I remember, so he was working with New Line, and New Line came to him saying, "We've got this new endeavor that we want to," and he was basically the one that just went, "Yes, let's do it," but it was a big risk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Samuel Hadida, the regarded indie French film distributor and producer of such films as Resident Evil.
The franchise.
Yes, and
This
the
was all after Lord of the Rings.
and
Yes.
the Tony Scott directed True Romance, which was way before The Lord of the Rings, and Domino, has died at age 64. He passed away Monday at UCLA Santa Monica Hospital after a short illness, according to his brother. He owned and managed the Metropolitan Film Export. Have you guys heard of this before? Seriously, okay? A top French distributor of American indie films that they co-founded with their father, a champion of indie cinema and bringing the likes of Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs and David Fincher's Seven to French cinema screens. He was a staple at festivals and markets for the past 40 years. Wow. So he has quite
Quite a roster.
quite a curriculum vitae.
And we've got
Wow.
a quote from Mark Ordesky on the screen.
And from Mark Ordesky, shocked and saddened. Sammy was so dear and brimming with life. One of many memories is indelible. His company was a co-investor in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and needless to say, the stakes were high. After we premiered the first public footage at Cannes, 2001. Oh gosh, you guys, Chelsea, that was a famous reveal.
Yep.
When they showed that footage, that 13 minutes of Moria footage
Yep.
and the Balrog reveal. Amazing, let's continue. When we showed that first public footage at Cannes, Sammy lifted me off the ground and kissed me in his excitement. He lived and bet his passions, and I'll miss him terribly. We should all aspire to love our lives and our jobs as much as he did. My deepest sympathy to his brother Victor and to all who loved him. My gosh.
All right.
Yeah. So nobody knew it until today, but we really kind of wouldn't have had Lord of the Rings.
If it hadn't been for him, yeah.
There's a famous quote from Neil Gaiman's The Black Orchid comic book, which was eventually picked up by another writer in a spin-off series. But for DC Comics fans, let's go back to Black Orchid. There is a magical, powerful jungle deep in the Amazon, and it is a green source of nature energy and green energy for the planet. And it is not to be touched by mortals, not to be seen or touched by mortal kind, like Themyscira, removed from regular men to touch. And in the comic book, a boy who is, from his tribe wants to impress someone and takes one small, beautiful lily, picks a flower, and therefore breaks the sacred rule. Like in Legend, in the Ridley Scott movie, where, she approaches the unicorn forbidden as a human and touches the unicorn, and all the bad things happen. So at the very moment he takes that flower out of the sacred jungle and it begins to wither and everything starts to deteriorate, the caption from the narrator says only one simple sentence I've never forgotten: in so small an act can the hand of destiny be changed. Repeat that, folks. This man, Mr. Hadida, in so small an act of faith in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, can the hand of destiny be changed. Nobody else, would have come to the table financially at that level except...
And to address Jeff in the chat room,
Wow.
who's going, nowhere on IMDb is this guy credited. Oftentimes,
How about that?
financiers of any project are not credited on IMDb. There's no reason to really show where the money came from. That's just a thing that
Yep.
kind of is this unsung hero of the film industry.
Because he doesn't negotiate to get a credit.
Yeah.
What he's doing is making the money behind the scenes with the company. He's
Yep.
giving you the money, and he wants his money back after investment and interest. And because of his faith, and a lot of other people jumped on board because they're like, oh, hey, Sammy and Hadida is on this, let's do it. And then New Line Cinema began what was at the time, I think, a rather ingenious way of pre-sales, to pre-sell distribution markets, one foreign country at a time, one territory at a time. until he got they got all the money together. Then Peter Jackson said, "Glory, here's the money," and got to put the Hobbits in front of the camera, and the Ian McKellens, and the Orlando Blooms, and the Sean Beans. We
And the
got
Billy
all that
Boyds
juicy
and
stuff
everything.
because they had the money to pay for it. That's a fantastic. Thank you, Justin, for bringing that to our attention. And remember, you guys, that quote: "In so small an act can the hand of destiny be changed," in both good ways and
Bad ways.
unfortunate ways.
Yeah.
It's a storytelling trope that we see a lot in speculative fiction and mythology. It's an interesting trope and one of my favorites.
And
As-
the Lord of
as-
the Rings inspired him to pursue video games with Resident Evil, the most successful
That's
video
right.
game movie series of all time.
Until
Okay.
Castlevania, which is not a movie series, but yes.
Yes.
Castlevania is going to be the next most successful video game adaptation ever after Resident Evil.
Interesting.
6 movies, yeah, that's right. Well, let's see. But they kind of petered out after a while. I don't know. Are you a Resident Evil fan?
I am not.
You guys didn't hear it, but Justin's in the background going on and on and on about Resident Evil. You know, I did like the first one, though. It was hardcore, the first one. I'm a
Got
fan
nothing
of
there.
Mia Jovovich. You give me, like,
Wasn't Carl
Joan
Weathers
of,
in it?
you give me Joan of Arc, Mia Jovovich, I'm happy. You give me The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis and Mia Jovovich, I'm happy. Put her in front of me, and I'm like, I'm a happy fanboy. She's awesome. But I got tired of Resident Evil. I never followed the series past the first one. Did you?
I never even saw the first one. I'm just not a Resident Evil person.
Well, you're not a horror fan in general.
I'm not a horror fan in
Okay.
general. I'm not even much for like vampires. It doesn't even have to be like horror, but vampires and zombies. Like just
Yeah.
you tell me that the storyline has anything to do with a vampire or a zombie, and I'm out.
Wah, wah. He made The Hunger Games possible and Silent Hill. Speaking of, another interesting, very visually interesting video game adaptation into a feature film was Silent Hill. But the story is kind of weak, but also kind of visually arresting. It's very interesting. But what happened here? Hi. All right, now that we've gone past the news, we're talking about Harry Potter.
People in
Yeah.
the chat room really want to know why that he's not credited. Like,
Okay, all right, Jeff, to answer you, why he's nowhere in the IMDb, and why people in the chat room want to answer that question, why is it someone who is so instrumental to the success of major movies and franchises not have credits on the IMDb? Because a lot of the time the lawyers, and thank you, Chelsea De La Cruz, even the smallest person can change the course of the future. That mirrors the same
Yeah,
sentiment
same attitude.
that I got from Black Orchid.
Now Emily wants to know why
Yes.
we're talking about Harry Potter. What's going on?
Okay, the reason why is because I can't watch a YouTube video. All the YouTube content providers are like piss and vinegar about crimes of Grindelwald. Maybe, justifiably so, maybe not. And then all they do is make these ugly comparisons to the Hobbit trilogy. I see it over and over and over and over again. What do you think about that? I mean, literally, they say, look at what Warner Brothers did. They're doing the same prequelitis, messing around with Harry Potter prequels and making them messy. And,
My
and
point of
like
view
The Hobbit was. And I'm like,
has
what?
has nothing to do with it relating to Hobbit. I was like,
Thank you.
Hobbit was a book way before they made the movies. It was a foolish decision to make it 3 films. 2 probably would have been fine. 3 was definitely a stretch. Fantastic Beasts, I adore way more than Harry Potter. And we have JC joining us, a special
Come here,
guest.
the owner and the proprietor.
My
of-
issue with Fantastic Beasts, though, is that
go
with the
ahead.
Harry Potter films, everything was very constructed as this is a film. It's based off of a book. It's wrapped up in its own story. It's 1 year of school. It has a full plot that's actualized.
in 1 year.
Yeah, and so every film can basically be a standalone. Whereas Fantastic Beasts, it's one never-ending movie. It was like the first film was introduction to a bunch of characters with no plot really going on until the B plot became the A plot in the final 5 minutes, which then became the plot of the new film.
Yes.
That just gets interrupted abruptly right as the biggest storyline is revealed, and you're like, and now we have to wait another 2 years for another film.
Okay.
I know nothing of witches and wizards outside of Gandalf. But
Which
as
I
somebody
love
who
about
knows
you.
nothing about Lord of the Rings prior to them starting their show here, except that I didn't really enjoy it in my early 20s, I like the Hobbit movies were like a gateway for me to fall in love with the Lord of the Rings. Like I watched those movies, I bought them on iTunes, the extended edition, and I enjoyed those movies so much. I read the Hobbit books, and I got back into the Lord of the Rings movies.
And that's something.
So, so I don't,
It is,
the
though.
same way, like, I don't like people crapping on the Star Wars prequels, like, I am a Hobbit defender to the end. Like, they're fun and enjoyable, and I think the problems people have with them as fans are, it's a dogmatic thing in the loyalty to the source material, where any movie you watch that's based on a book has to basically try to hit the same points but be different, because a book, you know, if you're reading a book, it takes time to read a page. There's a built-up anticipation in your head reading what is about to happen to Bilbo that on screen happens instantaneously. But in the book, you've got 5 pages of what's going on in his head, but how do you visualize that in a movie? So you have to add elements and take things away to try to capture that same feeling. And watching those movies, like, that's what got me excited about Lord of the Rings again. Like, watching the Necromancer and all of that, like, turn into and see the origin of those things, and going back and watching Two Towers after watching the Hobbit movies, I'm like, oh my God, it's so much of a bigger deal to me that Legolas hates dwarves, because of course he does. The love of his life was stolen by a filthy dwarf. Like, that to me made that part of Lord of the Rings stronger, not knowing anything watching those movies, because I understood why he doesn't like dwarves. Like, I didn't have the background of, like, well, of course elves don't like dwarves and dwarves don't like elves. Like, I don't know that, and the Hobbit gave that to me, so I understood that aspect of the movie better.
Instead of just a generational grudge or racial grudge, it became a personal grudge for Legolas in that regard. I get that. And that advances his character and colors his attitudes in the other 3 films. Thank you, Randall Lehman. Yeah, it is, and I appreciate that. Thank you, buddy.
Now, to be fair,
but the criticism so often leveled at, right now, at Crimes of Grindelwald is trying to do fan service, which is what The Hobbit was accused of, trying to add extra stuff in these prequels that are going to rewrite or place a revision point on something else that's in the earlier years established of stuff, you know? Like, there's like the little Philosopher's Stone is in the cabinet when Nicholas Flamel opens it, and that's just there as a little da-da-da. Hi,
Well, I mean,
That's like a fun Easter egg. The thing that the people are most upset about online right now is just the fact that McGonagall makes an appearance in this Crimes of Grindelwald, and she shouldn't even be alive at that point, and she's a full-blown adult. I was like, and I get it. Hardcore fans are very upset about those little tiny details in their canon.
You mean she wasn't awake? She wasn't alive yet?
That's what they claimed was supposed to be, that she shouldn't be alive at that
Wait,
point.
if Dumbledore was 30 years younger in this film than the way he was portrayed as Michael Gambon in the later films, right? If he's 30 years younger, then why wouldn't McGonagall be 30 years younger?
That's exactly where I think. It doesn't bother me, but that is the biggest uproar right now, is that McGonagall's not supposed to be in this timeline.
Also, you're 2/3 of, or 2/5 into a movie, maybe you find out that she's some sort of special sort of being that you don't know, and you're getting
This is
crazy.
just where, like, I think fans get a little too attached and emotional to something that's just so much to their heart, and they don't want change.
Well, it's also, you know, revisionist wise, and I'll bring Star Wars back up because that's what I know best, is, you know, there's an entire section of Return of the Jedi dedicated to a certain point of view, and Obi-Wan's like, well, let me retcon my speech in A New Hope to make it make sense with the fact that now Darth Vader's your dad, because it wasn't actually planned that way in 1977, which is why George Lucas... Like, there's a whole section there where, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, through dialogue, justifies the change, and there's no reason why, you know, a lot of... As long as the world feels as if it could be a precursor to what you've seen in Harry Potter, like, yeah, you know, it's okay. Like, just enjoy it or don't.
Yeah.
Like, I stopped watching new Star Wars movies because I don't like those. But, like, I still like, I'm like, but the prequels were awesome. And people are like, you're a hypocrite. And I'm like, no, because the mythology of it. And they're like, but they're boring and the acting's terrible. And I'm like, but the new ones make no sense. And people are like, but, so I get it. Sometimes I read a great thing online that was,
Okay,
Oh.
Pipsquet, thank you. Pipsquet says Professor
wasn't born in the
McGonagall wasn't
20s.
born in the 1920s.
I also think that it's not only supposed to be a 30-year difference. I think it's supposed to be a much larger difference.
I think Professor McGonagall, well, at least, thank you, by the way, JC, you're
Yes.
awesome. I thought Minerva McGonagall's portrayed somewhat in her late 80s in the film.
I think she looks that way, but I don't think she's actually supposed to be that old.
Oh.
I think she's more like late 40s or 50s is where she's supposed to be.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jen, come sit.
Come, Jen, come.
We have another special guest. This is JC's
Yeah, we have
better
another,
half.
Another special guest here. It's coming,
And
Villainy.
I'm also wearing my Hogwarts shirt.
Woohoo! Let her go and tell it.
Hogwarts.
Yeah, so I did not like Crimes of Grindelwald at all, and I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't want to do spoilers, but there's nothing to spoil. Like, literally nothing to spoil.
But this coming from a hardcore Harry Potter fan.
I actually got into this series incredibly late. I listened to the audio series when I was doing a terrible commute into downtown and became obsessed, and I had managed to live in a bubble, so, you know, what happens at the end of I think it was book 5, maybe book 6. The thing that happens you guys have all seen it. It's with Dumbledore's story.
That's
Yes.
Half-Blood Prince when that happens.
Yeah. When that happened, I was in tears streaming. JC was barbecuing. I came home and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Can I ruin Harry Potter for you?" And he was like, "Okay." So I told him. He's like, "Yeah, you didn't know that. How did you not know that? Everybody knows that Dumbledore dies." I was like, "I didn't know." Anyway, so I came into it incredibly late. So watching Fantastic Beasts is kind of like, I feel like, I'm like current. I'm current time. Like, I'm finally watching at the same time. And Crimes of Grindelwald, I think, was just a disaster of a movie, personally. Like, the people who are like, it's just too much, there's too much going on. The new characters they add, I don't really think they add anything at all. I don't know how many spoilers we can say, but...
You can say as many as you want to.
Okay, the whole thing with Leda Lestrange, you know,
Yes.
that, I don't understand why she was even in the movie. Because at the end...
They were building it up to
They
where
were-
I was like, oh, this is going to be a really cool connection.
It's
And
gonna
then
be
they
a reveal.
roll it out.
Yeah, it's
And
like
I was
a
like,
huge reveal.
why did you just waste all of
Yeah.
my time?
And her huge reveal was that she has no idea.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh,
yeah.
so you're just like the rest of us. Why
Right.
are you here? Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. But the thing with Minerva is she apparently in the original series, they are changing canon because
I know she's not
yeah.
supposed to be born yet in the
Yeah, she's
series,
not
but I
supposed to be
just
born
don't
yet.
understand at what point she is born and how old she's supposed to be in Potter. Do you know that?
So I think she was supposed to be born in the 30s.
Okay.
So
that's what
this,
says.
this
Oh,
someone
great.
said- yeah, so she's she's supposed to be born in the 30s. So obviously this Crimes of Grindelwald,
And
she's
they have
there.
her there at like 20 or 30
Right.
at
So
Hogwarts.
the thought is that, you know, the group that I came up with is like, perhaps this is a relative, you know, maybe Minerva's mom, like who knows? Like we don't know, but it's not the McGonagall that we're all like, oh my God, it's, you know,
It may be revealed as Minerva's aunt.
Yeah.
Aunt on her,
Yeah,
on
we
her
still
mother's
don't know.
side.
There's a lot about this movie that they just left hanging. I was
yeah.
like, so there's a lot that will be revealed.
Maybe there was
still.
more than one McGonagall at part of
I
the
was
faculty.
also slightly annoyed because they did this big press thing about Nagini and that whole thing happening,
That
and
was
then
the
it was
only
such
scene.
like a
the scene in the trailer. That
Yeah.
we were like, oh my God, that's literally the only scene in the entire movie. It was just a tease, which is, you know, it was. But I feel like this entire 2 hours and 10 minutes or whatever it was over so quick. Like it was one of the
Yes.
quicker movies I think I've ever seen, and I was just shocked when it was over because it was like literally nothing has happened in this movie.
literally nothing. That's what I said. Is that it bothers me about Fantastic Beasts is that it's one giant movie that's being dragged out instead of its own little stories that are happening. However, I do love meeting all of the new creatures and beasts every
Yes,
time.
yes.
And the baby Nifflers killed me. It was
Yes.
the best thing ever. And the fact that Niffler wasn't
give the
a
baby-
giant pain in the butt this time, he actually had a
Niffler
purpose.
was a hero.
He was a
Yes.
hero. I loved
Well,
it.
And when they were talking about, when you look at the poster that they released with
Yeah.
all of the characters, when I'm watching the movie with who Credence thought was his mother,
Mm-hmm.
who cares? And to relate it to JC as he always does to Star Wars, it would almost be as if Uncle Owen was on the original poster. It's like who cares? I mean, like I get it, like he plays a part, but like it doesn't like he's not a main character. If he was there, if he wasn't there, I mean, God, the Star Wars people are gonna come after me.
No, that's awesome, honey.
I love it.
But you know, like it just feels like that, and I didn't love that, and the end reveal with Credence and the Griffin. It just like there's no way in my heart that I believe that we would not have had some sort of inkling in the original series, because she like lined out Dumbledore's family.
Yeah,
And
I was also really confused because they
So
showed.
this is retconning in a very specific way. And this is the argument we're talking about how The Hobbit criticism is compared to this
Crimes of
J.K.
Grindelwald,
Rowling
yeah.
criticism. How much and how much did Peter Jackson retcon in The Hobbit versus what J.K. Rowling is doing to her own intellectual property right now? And I'm a little bit, I mean, this is fascinating, and that's why we're here today to talk about this, folks. And please come in live on the chat. The hotline is open, 530-64-FRODO.
And yes, to Jared that said he was going to go because he feels like spoiler alert. If you haven't seen Fantastic Beasts and you don't like spoilers, please turn it off.
Jared, hey, before we get to too many spoilers, I will say that my only real problem is with the screenwriting. I don't care about retcon stuff in the Potter universe.
Right.
I care about looking at what Peter and Fran and Philippa did with the Hobbit screenplay and extending it to 3 films. The way that Rowling is pushing 4 films into 5 now, because the original plan for Wizarding World Fantastic Beasts was not 5 films. And Warner Brothers is doing the same thing to The Hobbit. Warner
But
Brothers,
it's not
the same
just
studio,
Warner
is doing
Brothers.
the same
Like
thing
every
to both
studio is
franchises.
pushing everything into more films. Like that's just our culture now.
Yeah, to Kathy here.
Who's asking about the Dumbledore?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're talking about Abbas. Is
Albus.
Is it Aldous?
Yeah.
Abbas?
Albus
Those
Dumbledore. There's
Albus.
Oh yeah, there's Albus, and then there's
the brothers.
Aberforth.
Yep.
Sorry, yes.
And I believe the new name that we have to learn now is Aurelius.
Aurelius, and then there's also a sister that also starts with an A that I can't remember her name.
Yeah, so there.
But there's actually
If you haven't seen the Crimes of Grindelwald, it's a new character that we're meeting that is just kind of far fetched, I think.
So nobody understands where this Dumbledore is coming in. My biggest question is we see the babies get switched and then the ship goes down. And one, is that supposed to be the Titanic? I've been wondering that since I saw the movie.
Makes you wonder.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was like, but why would the parents not go back for their child and not notice anything? And where's the rest of the Dumbledores? And how would we not know that a Dumbledore died in this giant boat crash? And like, there's just too many things where I was like, this just feels convenient. Like they just like.
It is a weird bit of screenwriting that I don't like, but visually it's beautiful. When you see the Bogart change to this strange, sunken, floating white shroud, and the look on Jude Law's face as he stares up at it, and all right, do what you will with the faults of Leda Lestrange, but the flashbacks to her being a student at Hogwarts and the younger version of Newt Scamander
Yes.
were golden.
Yes,
I loved
they were.
every.
I
there
loved young Newt and
there
all
were
of that.
things to appreciate in this movie, but the script was something of a weird mess with surprise melodramatic twists that I didn't think were earned. They were
Yes.
not well earned from a screenwriting
And
perspective.
the other thing that's
they were
also
just
interesting-
shoveled in, like surprise twist, narrative twist. Here's another one. Here's another
Yeah.
one. What? What are you doing?
I was also I saw the film about a week before it was actually released, and I came home going, I need to understand where this Dumbledore thing came from, and nobody had seen the film, so obviously Wiki and fandom aren't going to have articles about it. But I was on Wiki anyway, going, come on, there has to be a tree of something that can. And Dumbledore at that point was listed as having 2 brothers and a sister, and I was like, I didn't even know about this other brothers. Now we're saying there's 3 brothers and a sister. I'm really confused about the Dumbledore family tree.
Sister's name Ariadne, or I'll look it up.
Yeah, I remember.
Agreeing with me that they thought immediately it might be the Titanic. Yeah, that was my first thought was, is this supposed to be the Titanic?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just having recently gone into the series and really loving it, when I am definitely one of those people that shamed Harry Potter.
I saw it when it came in.
As an adult, I was just kind of like, I don't understand why everybody's into this series, because everybody's into this series. I'm not going to be into this series. Then I read it and I was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing series ever. I'm a fool.
I love that.
So true.
Yep.
But knowing how wrapped up and well written and just so well conceived the original series was, just watching Crimes of Grindelwald, I just feel like I'm kind of like, is there a plan here? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a plan, But is
I don't
there
think
a
it's a
plan?
very well
Yeah,
conceived
so-
plan.
But how patient are we going to be to fork over? In other words,
I will
maybe
see every single one of them.
maybe it
so.
should have been 4 films instead of 5 because this just feels like an intermediary one.
I mean, this
It really
is
does.
well, this is one of those things where, to tie it back to Star Wars, like I will see Episode 9 because I need to know how this all wraps up.
I mean,
And-
more importantly than the wrap up, I need to know how they're interjecting Leia into this.
Yeah, so I will see Episode 9, but then after Episode 9, I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to commit myself to the next story.
Oh
the
yeah,
next saga.
and the
because-
Mandalorian TV series and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I just don't know if I have it in me to kind of follow the trail again.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I just watched. I'm so late to everything. I just watched Lost. Okay, random out of the blue.
and
hey,
you feel
Dominic Monaghan, yes.
woo,
Hey,
dumb.
Marry a
But
doc
you feel massively
fans.
cheated of the ending of Lost. Yes.
So I mean, I literally watched it like last year, like last
Yep.
March for the first time. And again, lived in a bubble, had no idea what happened. And the end of the pilot episode, like I wish I had filmed my reaction because my jaw was on my chest. Where I was like, what the hell is happening?
And you had to keep watching.
I had to keep watching. And at the end of Lost, probably like everyone else, at least I didn't have to wait, 5 years or whatever for that terrible
Yep.
ending. I was just so disappointed. And then it made me realize why Fringe was not so well received because I watched Fringe when it came out, and I loved Fringe, but it went off the rails. And if I had watched Lost before watching Fringe, there's no way I would have committed myself to Lost because I'd have been like, or to Fringe because I'd have been like, saw Lost, it went nowhere, it went off the rails. Who
Not
knows what
doing this
happened?
again. Yeah.
And then you watch Fringe and it starts to like shake a little, and you're like, nope, I'm out. Like I'm
That-
not going to
so
commit the
that's
time.
how I felt about Manifest, which is currently on air. And I sat down with the creator and main producer at Comic-Con before it started airing, and I said, for somebody who loved Lost, that was deeply invested, that spent every lunch at work talking to people about theories and us trying to figure out this show, why do I get invested in Manifest? Like, is there a plan? And he was like, I have a full 5-year plan. I know exactly what's happening, because the Lost writers had no idea.
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
like,
So that's where that went awry. They
Yeah.
really had no idea. How
they
they were gonna
literally,
end it.
my favorite thing in the world was seeing a glimpse into the writer's room at Lost, and they literally had their walls of headshots. Alive, dead, unsure. Because they had to remind themselves what they had done.
Well, from what I had read is that they were trying so hard to be ahead of the fans that they would like put something out there. They would see how the fans would like assume what was going to happen,
And then try to change
they
it.
would change it based off of the fans' assumptions to keep everybody hanging. So it's like they probably had an amazing storyline to begin with, and then just was like, well, I want to be sneaky, so I'm going to change it, and then it just lost its way. So I feel like that's what's kind of happening with the new saga in Star Wars, the new trilogy, is it's losing its way. And with Crimes of Grindelwald right now, I'm kind of, where's it going?
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, because J.K. Rowling is involved in this, and she's a great story writer.
Read the Silkworm series.
No.
So that's under her pen name, Robert Jabroth, whatever.
Robert Galbraith.
Yes. So I read those. Well,
Those are the crime thriller books. She's right.
yes, yeah. It's Cormoran Strikes is the author, or the main character.
Yeah.
And I read the first one, and it was so painfully hard to get through because so much of the story was told actually at the end of the book through exposition. Like you didn't actually experience the story; you just kind of saw it. It was really unfortunate. And then I tried to read the second one, and it was just so terrible, and it broke my heart because I'm like, this is J.K. Rowling. I
Right.
know what this woman is capable of doing, and
maybe that's why
what
she
is
put it under a pen name.
happening? I don't know. I don't know if she was just like, I want to have fun with this one, so I don't want to think about it too much. I don't know what it was, but it was really hard. It was really hard. I didn't finish the series because there was no path.
Well, criticism is usually levied at her now for the relative success, or perceived failures of Crimes of Grindelwald. And there's also the conversation to be had about studio interference, how much money and talk went behind
True.
the scenes before they decided to change the format from 4 to up it up to 5 films. Same thing analogously happened with The Hobbit.
But as much as we
Changing
want to
2
assume
films to
that it
3
was the
films.
studio that did 4 to 5, that could have also been them writing the screenplay and going, actually, we need a 5th film for this. Like we want to assume it's the studio. It could have come from somewhere else.
I would like to say that she's a talented novelist, a very experienced, really talented novelist. But as a screenplay writer, I saw much more success with the first Fantastic Beasts film than the relative failures of this screenplay is really about letting the audience feel like they are learning about background and characters
Yep.
and then earning a big reveal. You can't just sandwich in one flashback and then expect everybody to feel emotionally devastated by the big reveal. That doesn't work. Am I crazy?
And even in like
No,
the smaller reveals were even just the falling flat of like Newt clearly comes in contact with this creature, that like Chinese dragon-looking cat.
That thing was so cool.
It was
though.
really cool, and you can tell that this is something that Newt's wanted to meet his entire life, but they like don't talk about it or explain it, and he just happens to have the perfect cat toy to like make it jump into his suitcase, and I was like, that was really anticlimactic. Just like
because I did not rewatch Fantastic Beasts before watching Crimes of Grindelwald, and then of course I went home and watched Fantastic Beasts right after. Yeah. And as you're watching it, like there's that scene where he goes into his office, if you will, and he's got his assistant, and they're like going through talking about all the animals, and then Jacob shows up and he's like talking about all the animals, and like you get to meet them, and I understand that was Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was the name of that book, and that was about the beast, but it's like this one of the Crimes of Grindelwald. I'm sorry, but did Grindelwald actually commit a crime in that movie? Because I don't think so.
The only one is that he permitted
public assembly. Sorry, that's a crime.
He permitted his followers to kill the Muggle family and the baby in the French apartment, which is the only crime besides him killing several people to escape prison. Those are the only crimes I saw him doing.
I also struggled with it because Grindelwald is supposed to be this really charming, it's supposed to essentially be the Hitler of the wizard community. He's supposed to be super charming. You want to believe him. And the entire time watching it, all I could think of is, I really wish this was Colin Farrell. Like, I really wish it was still Colin Farrell, because I feel like
heard that a lot.
I feel like it would just be better.
Heard that a lot. Well, if he does Polyjuice Potion again, then he might have to go back to being Colin Farrell again.
Here's hoping. Okay, I gotta go.
Okay, honey. Great to have you on the show. Thank you for being
Thanks
here.
for popping in, Jen.
All right, but also interesting that The Hobbit and the Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts prequel franchise are immediately being drawn together, but I think the analysis falls very flimsy because it's only surface.
Yeah.
It's only a surface comparison.
It's a very surface comparison. There's really nothing underneath that to hold any of that up.
In fact, look at the comments we've gotten on the hotline, and thank you, Arowana Undomiel, for this amazing feedback. You guys want to be on the hotline? Look there it is on my hat. 530
64 Frodo.
64 Frodo. Looks like my Zelda symbol is getting in the way. All right, amazing. She says, in Crimes of Grindelwald, we already talked about McGonagall.
Yep.
The Hobbit franchise is a lot better than the Fantastic Beasts franchise. She continues saying, even though there were some things added in The Hobbit, like the side love story of Keely and Tauriel, it still
or just Tauriel in general.
It still felt as if the writers and the producers really cared for the series, whereas Fantastic Beasts, the writers and producers don't really care and did little research of the established world.
I mean, it's not fair to say that they did little research. This is their world that they're creating, that they get to do what they want with. And I have this argument a lot, too. When authors are still around, I was like, that this is their story to tell. And if this is where they want their story to go, like maybe this is what J.K. Rowling would have wanted. Maybe she wanted McGonagall to be around at this era. We don't really know. I was like, if it ruins the story for you, I apologize.
If McGonagall has some history that we don't know that has extended her life, like maybe she made friends with Nicholas Flamel.
Maybe she has a time turner and she went back to the 20s.
Yep, maybe she did a...
But didn't McGonagall give the time turner to Hermione?
I thought a time turner can only go back a very short amount of time.
Maybe she has extra magic.
What if she has some super big time turner? Or what if she made friends with Nicholas Flamel and just lived much, much, much longer than she normally would have, and that's why she's there longer?
And besides these forced reveals that happened, there was also really subtle characters that we met that we got no information on, like the alchemist.
Yes.
I wanted to know more about what was going on there. He was there for like 5 seconds, and I was like, go back to that guy.
Yep. I know, right?
Yep.
Oh, and what's up with that Blood Brother spell? Thank you, Shad. Shad Damon brings that up. Thank you for mentioning that. What about that Blood Brother spell? And all of a sudden, it seems to be now a new, not a red herring, but it seems to be a new MacGuffin.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the
I
Harry
thought
Potter
that was very
universe.
interesting that they had some kind of blood
Hort-
pact that they can't fight each other.
Oh,
I
but
was
so
like,
this is a
but
new
now
Horcrux.
they want to fight each other, and how do we destroy this blood pact? And
It's finally, it took us 2 movies to establish what the MacGuffin is. It's not a ring of power.
yeah,
It's not a series of 7 Horcruxes. Were there 7?
yeah, believe so.
It's not a series of Horcruxes or a ring, which are exactly the same bloody thing. That's right, Bathilda Bagshot. That's right, Bathilda Bagshot. A tip of the hat to Professor Tolkien from Rowling. But what I was saying was the before I completely get lost, what was I saying? I got lost.
I don't remember.
Oh, I was.
You're
That always
asking the
happens live.
girl with the concussion to remember.
Oh my God, funny. I was just saying the fact that Rowling, the MacGuffin is now this object that, for some strange reason, Grindelwald was not keeping safe.
No.
He was wearing it as a bloody lapel pin instead of keeping it
Or I think
somewhere
it was
safe.
a necklace, actually.
Was it a necklace?
I think it was a necklace, and Niffler steals it,
Spoiler.
and I love it.
Hello there.
But yeah, it's very interesting. I think it's comparing apples and oranges to go Hobbit and Fantastic Beasts on this, especially with the fact that there are no Fantastic Beasts books. The books that they put out were just the script of the movie.
Yeah.
This is an entire universe they're creating that they created because they wanted more money. That's really where this came from. It wasn't like, oh, we have this other book series, let's go for it. They were just like, let's keep building Wizarding World. We're 20 years later and people still really love it. Let's give them something else. I have nothing really, as much as there's a lot of issues with this story just not making sense and dragging, I prefer Fantastic Beasts over Harry Potter. I love period pieces. I love the time frame.
Really?
I like having
Really?
the graduated wizards that we're dealing with in the real world, and like seeing the adult wizards and how they go about their daily lives. Like, to me, that's more exciting than just being in Hogwarts again. As much as it was fun to see Hogwarts and them learning about Bogarts again.
I was disappointed to not see Ilvermorny in this film.
Yes, this is something that's been bothering me since the first film.
The reason why? Because I want to go back to Hogwarts. It is nice
Okay.
to see the adults operating with governments and bureaucracy and difficult career challenges and romantic complications and allegiance, evidently.
And just being
Easily
allowed to
shifted allegiances.
freely use their magic. It's not like you
Yeah.
can only use magic in school. Like, they actually, what do you do with it now that you have magic?
You can live your whole life without any restrictions on using the magic. Well, I think it's
I'm
fascinating.
annoyed because they did that huge reveal about Ilvermorny and go to Pottermore and find out what house you are before the first Fantastic Beasts movie.
Yeah.
And we've yet to see this school in 2 films. Why did we need to know about it and pick our houses then? Like,
Oh my gosh, where's Ilvermorny? Yeah,
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. Thanks, Shad.
I'm a Schwartz. May the Schwartz
May
be
the
with you.
Schwartz be with you. Let's do the bit with the ring, okay?
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
I love that. No. Do the joke. Show me the ring. Like show me the ring, and I'm gonna go. Oh, I can read it. And then you say, you can read it.
Oh, it's the necklace.
It's the necklace.
Oh,
The
yeah.
necklace.
Oh, you can read it.
No, I'm just clearing my throat. Sorry.
I love that movie so much.
Why do I love
Yogurt.
that joke?
No, my favorite is when they're combing the desert. It's always my favorite part.
Yeah, combing the desert. Oh my gosh, they are combing the desert. Oh, it's my Virgin alarm. Oh, hey, guess what? They have new craft beers at Scum and Villainy. We're doing a very short version of the show this evening. We're going to finish the show at 6 o'clock. Makusa. Yeah, Makusa is
The
magical
Congress of the United States.
Magical Congress. I'm a Ravenclaw, by the way.
I am a Slytherin.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool. Now look at this. Smog City Brewing Company has brought us a fantastical beast. It's the saber-toothed squirrel. Can you guys see that?
You could
The
walk it up
saber-toothed
closer.
Squirrel. It's kind of funny. I'm going to walk up there and show
Yeah.
the camera. This is a really
It's a brand new beer that Scum
hoppy-
and Villainy just got today, and we thought
They've
because
got-
it's from Smog City, and I want to call it Schmog.
They have radically advanced their beer menu. They have lots and lots of new craft beers and new IPAs and cool things.
Including the new limited edition Game of Thrones Scotch line.
How blurry is it?
A little bit, not too much. It's more just the red light. Bring it back a little tiny bit. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Saber-toothed squirrel. No, I really don't. I don't like hoppy beers. Give me a nice lager. Give me a Hefeweizen. I like all those kinds of things. But if it's hoppy, that's not necessarily my favorite flavor. But I do like the spectrum of flavors. I'll drink a stout. You can give me a Guinness. I'm happy. I'm very happy with a Jamaican beer, Red Stripe, delicious. But, you know, if it's made from hops, I made the joke to the bartender. I said, I don't feel like chewing into a Brussels sprouts when I'm drinking my beer. That's just me. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, it's Clifford and Chelsea at theonering.net. We're doing the live show. How are you doing? Pete. Hey, Pete says, hey, it's good to see you on the show, Pete.
He's actually pieced out. He was worried about spoilers for Fantastic Beasts.
Well, okay, no, we didn't do any more spoilers. We did enough. But the problem is just to compare how fans want to say that continuously a lot of people on YouTube and content providers want to take a dump on The Hobbit and still criticize it and criticize it and criticize it. And I'm like, well,
first of all, take the thorn out of your butt.
Like JC said,
It's been, what, almost 10 years now?
there are problems with it. There are some obvious problems with it. There was studio interference with it. But it does have lots of important and rich, satisfying pleasures. Most importantly, Saruman is a good guy. It really is the mortar between the bricks in looking at the relationships between some of these really powerful people on the grand stage of Middle-earth. And, you know, even if Sylvester McCoy pulls a stick insect out of his mouth and everybody in the audience goes, oh, God, I'm done with this movie. Come on, have a laugh. You know, hey, guys, how you doing? So where does The Hobbit stand on your rating compared to Lord of the Rings fandom and Hobbit fandom? JC was just here a minute ago explaining how the Hobbit movies got him into reading the book and falling in love with the Lord of the Rings in a way he's never appreciated them before.
To me, I have no comparison over the two. I actually love all of them. I was very happy to go back to Middle-earth with The Hobbit. I loved where the technology was able to take us to create that dragon, Schmog. It's gorgeous. Every little detailed scale of that, and getting Benedict Cumberbatch for that voice was an amazing choice. I loved seeing the dwarven cities. I loved getting to know the dwarves more, and just having a representation for that, and going back to the Shire. All of it made me happy.
Really?
Yeah.
But not everything.
Except for adding Tariel.
And Fantastic Beasts is making you happy too, because you like these films generally more than the 8 films that preceded.
Yes, and I'm with Jen, who was here earlier. Is that I got into Harry Potter late, and I've actually never read the books. My mom was a huge fan of the books and the movies, and she bought me the DVDs and mailed them to me. I think the movies. I think that we were on year 5 when she sent me. You have to watch all of this. You're going to like it. And I had some sort of dental surgery and was stuck home and was like, I've watched everything I own. Let's watch these Harry Potter movies. And I went, oh, I really like these. So for Harry Potter 6, 7A, and 7B, those were the only ones I saw in the theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, here's my take on Harry Potter. I thought that the first movie was it Christopher Columbus who directed the first couple of the Chamber of Secrets?
Not a clue.
The director was Christopher Columbus from... Spielberg's Empire. The guy who directed. No, that was Zemeckis. I'm saying that he directed Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire. That was Chris Columbus who directed the first Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone movie. I enjoyed Harry Potter quite a bit, but I started to enjoy the series more and more and more when the directors changed and things became more complex and darker and interesting.
I don't go back and rewatch the beginning films too much, but starting, what is it, Prisoner of Azkaban when we meet Sirius Black?
Yes, always Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yep.
The best. But I thought that going into the late stage Harry Potter, especially Deathly Hallows, part 1 and 2, was so fascinating.
It was amazing.
Wow, it was amazing. And we were in new territory.
And I was never one to cry in movies over fictional characters dying. When Dobby died, I was not
Dobby.
okay.
Oh my gosh.
not okay.
I just can't.
In fact, I had to see the movie again because I didn't notice anything that happened after that because I was just like, Dobby, really?
Yeah. Oh my God. And you hadn't read the stories yet.
No.
Okay. Spoilers for Harry Potter fans, Dobby. Anyways, this is old news. But I'm just saying, I would have been equally happy if the tone that David Yates and J.K. Rowling were maintaining in Deathly Hallows was adequately maintained in the Fantastic Beasts movies. And
I think we'll get there.
it has been. It has almost been. But I really have one last thing to say. Don't expect your audience to have all the feels if your
When
script
we have no
doesn't
emotional connection.
earn it. Yeah. Thank you. What
Yep.
she said. If your script doesn't earn it, then how are we supposed to get all the feels from these dun-dun-dun, sudden dramatic reversals? And
Like if Newt suddenly died, like, all right, I'd have some feels because I know Newt,
Gandalf died. Gandalf died at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, and newbies who did not know what was happening, they had their minds blown George R.R. Martin style.
Yeah.
They're like, what? You killed the lead character? They had no idea.
Yep.
No, that's kind of cool. But no, come on. Joanne Rowling, I love you. You can do better. Fantastic Beasts is satisfying, but the world needs a better script. Sorry. The world is beautifully photographed. It's really great. The characters are interesting to a certain point, but don't spoil the opportunities with these characters. Please, in the future, come on. We're asking nice. All right.
So we're in our final 3 minutes before we go here. We just got another message on the hotline. I don't know if you want to check that out.
Michelle, who passed away?
Samuel Hadida, the financier behind Lord of the Rings.
The first person who actually put his money where his mouth is to
Which
actually
if-
make
which
the
if you'd
Lord of
like-
the Rings happen.
Disney wouldn't do. He did what Disney wouldn't do.
Actually,
Yes.
he did do what Disney and Buena Vista would not do. He agreed to finance Tolkien. Who was the person who first agreed to finance Tolkien for a film? That would be that amazing story that Ralph Bakshi told when we played that video for the 40th anniversary of his animated adaptation of Lord of the Rings. That was two weeks ago. Check it out on our YouTube archives.
I think-
Check it out.
And they didn't even give Ralph 2 movies.
It's
They
Kathy
didn't
that's
give- they
commenting
didn't
as
even give
OneRing.net
Ralph
right now, right?
What's happening?
It's Kathy that's commenting as the OneRing.net right now on Facebook. I'm assuming it's Kathy.
Yes.
I just have to say she commented about Christmas Chronicles because Chris Columbus worked on it. Christmas Chronicles is amazing. If you have not seen it, Kurt Russell as Santa is the best thing. It is a new Christmas staple for me.
Really?
I've watched it 3 times already.
Why wasn't it in theaters? Put it. Okay, Justin is in the background saying, "Take the Christmas Chronicles with Ken Russell," and he says, "Put it in theaters." Do you know what? Kurt. I mean, I would put Kurt Russell back in cinemas if he was in the sequel to John Carpenter's The Thing. That's what I want to see. I want to see him dressed as Santa Claus fighting this Lovecraftian horror demon.
I'm actually
Creature,
Will,
the
who's
Thing.
standing off to the side, and I got to sit in the sleigh from the actual Christmas Chronicles at the Grove the other day.
Oh, how cute! That is the. Oh,
It's the
wow.
it was really
That's
awesome.
so cute. You guys,
Yeah.
thank you as we say goodnight on what I have to say is an abbreviated edition of our show.
Yes.
Chelsea, I can't thank you enough for your wit and wisdom today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me once again, everybody. Thanks for listening and for your lovely comments. And I will be back in a couple of weeks for more insights on things. If you want to keep engaging with me about Fantastic Beasts, Lord of the Rings, Disney, anything nerdy, Kurt Russell, I want to talk to people about Christmas Chronicles. Let's talk about it. A good friend of mine, Jeff Teravainen, is one of the bad guys in the movie. And I'm so excited for him as well. Follow me. I'm at UncoolRockstar on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, or follow High Voltage, my publication. If you're in LA, come to our events. We're here every Monday night at Scum and Villainy. We do a lot of fun, nerdy things.
Indeed, we do. Hey, when's that Batman game night coming up? Is it next
It's
Monday?
this Monday,
Yep.
December 3rd.
Actually, I found out that a lot of my friends were plotting to come here to this upcoming game night behind my back without inviting me.
What?
And
well,
I'm like,
Cliff, you're
and I'm
always
like,
invited,
wait a minute,
first of all.
wait a minute. I was just like, I've been dating you for 13 months, and you didn't tell me that you assembled all of your friends to come to Batman game night, and
Oh, honey, no.
And so my response was, I think I just might float into Batman game night at Scum and Villainy on this coming Monday night. I think I'm going to be here
I think you should do it.
with some Dragon
Dragon
Dice.
Dice. Do
Yes,
it.
it'll be awesome. You guys, it is a wonderful show. Find me online as Clifford Broadway at, QuickBeam 2000. That's right, that young Entish fellow who made friends with Merry and Pippin. QuickBeam 2000. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, lots of mischief. that we managed today. Thank you for helping me manage it.
Thank you for having
We
me.
managed that, didn't we? Justin, thanks for putting on the show. Scum and Villainy, we love you guys. And to our live audience, come back next Tuesday, every week, live. 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Right
broadcast
here in
right
Hollywood.
here. We're going to have some upcoming surprises and special guests coming up. Until then, do take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.